Finally, some juicy drama.
Why is
At last, Ben Shapiro might have picked an argument he can't win. Must be with someone other than a confused 18-year-old college student.
Questions about Candice Owens. I think her behavior during this is disgraceful. Without a doubt.
Wow, I haven't seen someone turn on their ally this bad since the USS Liberty incident.
I think she's been absolutely disgraceful. I think that her faux sophistication on these particular issues has been ridiculous.
Faux sophistication? What, like saying no government has the right to commit genocide?
Disgraceful.
At first there was radio silence from both Candice and Shapiro. Candice spilled the tea with Tucker. Well, kind of.
What is that about?
You know, there isn't much of a background. I saw the video when everybody else saw it when I woke up. I can't respond to it beyond what he's saying because it's just ad hominem attacks. I don't know.
Yeah, because it's not, you know, we disagree or
Yeah.
I don't think she's correct or maybe she doesn't know what she's talking about. It's absolutely disgraceful.
Yeah, exactly. And so I can't respond to it on a level of intellect because there's nothing that he has expressed in that, at least in that short clip, that he fundamentally disagrees with in terms of what I said. But I will say that I'm not going to respond with the same ad hominem attacks.
Yes.
I don't think it helps further discussion. And if that was me that was caught on a video saying that about colleagues that I work with, I would be embarrassed. So I think that the video speaks more to Ben's character than it speaks to mine.
Has he texted you to apologize or explain or anything?
No, nothing. I haven't heard a single word.
She pretty much took the high ground, so maybe you're thinking that was the end of it. Whew, no. The beef massively escalated after Candice tweeted, "You cannot serve both God and money." And Shapiro shot back, "Candice, if you feel that taking money from the Daily Wire somehow comes between you and God, by all means quit." Forced to quit for quoting Bible verses.
I employ tons of Christians. I've given them the freedom and the platform to share their faith.
The fight then literally became biblical. Christ is king. She really didn't hold back. You've been acting unprofessional and emotionally unhinged for weeks now. We've all had to sit back and allow it and have all tried to exercise exceeding understanding for your raw emotion. But you cross a certain line when you come for scripture and read yourself into it. I will not tolerate it. Candice basically accusing Ben of allowing feelings to dominate his facts. What could she possibly be referring to? Benny threatening nuclear war unless American taxpayers foot the bill for Israel's weapons?
If Israel is forced to the wall, the possibility of nuclear exchange is extremely high. That is why it is very important that the United States provide the material aid to Israel.
Or his utter meltdown at Tucker Carlson for daring to care more about America than Israel.
Again, I want to add my voice to that because I'm a human being. But
Oh, sure you do.
You
You sound very outraged. What is he even talking about? What he's attempting to do is minimize what happened in Israel. He's not attempting to maximize what happened in the United States. He's attempting to minimize. I just don't understand why he's not on my side when it comes to Hamas has to be wiped off the face of the earth.
I never thought it would come to the day when I would have said that Candice Owens is being way more rational than Ben Shapiro. Now, I'm not totally surprised because I always knew Ben Shapiro was very hardline on the topic of Israel and Palestine. But I never knew it was going to be this irrational. So much so that he tries to shame Candice Owens because of her stance saying that it's a bad idea to, massacre a bunch of innocent civilians, and he has never really addressed the fact that innocent civilians in Gaza are dying. He just said, well, I feel sad for the innocent civilians that are dying because of Hamas. No, it's not because of Hamas that they're dying. Hamas is one reason that they're dying. The other reason is Israel's bombardment of Gaza. Now, I'm not an idiot. I know that in war, innocent people are going to die. The problem I have with the entire Israel response is that Israel did nothing in the earlier stages to showcase that they had restraint and to showcase that they wanted to make sure that the people in Gaza, the innocent civilians in Gaza, were not getting harmed. And this is the funny thing. They showed nothing in that sort, even though they were showing restraint, which blows my mind, because if you can show restraint, and they did show restraint, they dropped leaflets from planes telling people to evacuate Gaza. They gave them 24 hours to evacuate Gaza, which is a very small time, by the way. They didn't invade immediately, and just recently they were having talks about having a 4-hour gap to allow people in Gaza that are innocent move away from the north of Gaza. But in the media, they did nothing of the sort to show that they were showing restraint. In fact, when people started talking about people in Palestine dying, when there was this uproar that started coming up, instead of them to say, no, we're doing our best to minimize casualties, that's not what they said. They started guilt-tripping people, saying, how dare you be annoyed with me, even though you know that Israel has the right to defend itself. I feel like we know Israel has the right to defend itself, but you're killing innocent people. Okay, there's a lot of videos of innocent people dying because of airstrikes, and they basically had this idea of, I don't give a fuck. And I think that's one of the biggest blunders that Israel made. And instead of Ben Shapiro to see this and to call this out and to talk about, hey, maybe Israel should have done a better job trying to showcase that they're not actually having the intention to kill innocent people, he didn't do that. Instead of attacking people that had legitimate reasons and grievances with the way the Israel government was conducting itself, almost like trying to pretend like the Israel government was not doing anything wrong, that smashing Gaza with 6,000 missiles was a good idea in the first place. It's crazy to me because Cenk Uygur from the Young Turks, which I detest from a personal perspective, had a better solution than Ben Shapiro did and had a better point of view than Ben Shapiro did. It seems to me that in this time and in this moment, Ben Shapiro has become so triggered that it's become so irrational, especially on the topic of Israel. To the extent it's even mad at somebody from the Daily Wire, Candice Owens, who's so happens to be right in this case, not seeing the irony of the fact that she seems to be doing a more rational breakdown of the situation than he is doing. She seems to be the one that even trying to listen to the perspective of people on both sides. He's not seeing it from that perspective. He's so biased and so emotional and so in his feelings instead of factual, as he likes to talk, that he can't even see that Israel obviously is having a wrong wartime policy. Israel is obviously taking the wrong road when it comes to military response. And their propaganda machine has no capability of covering any form of weaknesses that their nation might have. I mean, even look at Ukraine and Russia situation. When Russia invaded Ukraine, Russia had the common sense to realize that even though you're going to strike buildings, you have to do deep reconnaissance first so that you do not end up striking innocent people and worsening the public view of your invasion. Russia had that mindset. In fact, Russia did something else. One of the Russian soldiers, I remember, as they came in to occupy Ukraine with ground troops, immediately, they didn't bombard first and just enter later. No, they put in ground troops immediately because they understood that if you just bombard an area to soften it up without putting the ground troops in, it's going to look like you're just trying to massacre people. They knew that. So when their ground troops went in and even confronted some of the locals that obviously didn't like them invading, the ground troops just stood there and just listened to the locals. I remember there was one particular clip that went very viral. One woman from Ukraine was shouting at the Russian soldiers, telling him that he's going to die there and they're going to plant some seeds on his grave. And she's trying to give him the seeds and stuff. It was just very calm and collected. It was like, oh, please step back. Step back. Obviously, Shana did not want to engage her as an enemy because she was a civilian. Even though at that point in time, everybody was against Russia, that was a fundamentally smooth move to showcase that he actually did not have any problem with the civilians, but to showcase that he actually had a problem with the Ukrainian soldiers and the military people in that area. Even went as far as to call it a military operation and not an invasion. Because Russia understood propaganda. He understood how to make sure that it did not showcase himself as somebody that's trying to massacre civilians. Now, apparently Israel learned nothing from that. They learned nothing from that. And when the consequences comes out that 6,000 plus people are dying and are innocent and they're showing babies getting blown up and women and children getting destroyed, instead of Israel to be like, hey, we didn't mean it to be like this. This is war. Unfortunately, it's a very crowded area. This is war. We cannot ensure that innocent people don't die. But we are doing our best to drastically reduce the casualties. They didn't do any of that. Instead of Ben Shapiro seeing this as the problem, is doing what? Attacking Candice Owens, who's obviously calling out massacre of the innocent people. The Jews did nothing to limit the death and the destruction on innocent Palestinians in the public eye. They should have talked about what they did, how they keep throwing out leaflets out there to make sure that people in the northern areas flee to the south. They could have put out videos showing themselves ringing the roofs of the buildings they're going to strike before they struck it, to showcase that they're not just striking buildings for no reason, that they actually sound an alarm on the top of the building to make people inside flee before they strike the building down. They didn't do any of that. They're like, well, we have the right to exist. If you don't like it, fuck you, basically, right? And instead of Ben Shapiro to say, oh yes, innocent people are dying, it's unfortunate that innocent people are dying. And I think the Israeli government could do a little bit of a better job to manage such casualties that aren't Hamas. But then, at the end of the day, Israel has the right to defend itself. Instead of him to do that, He didn't do any of that. It was like, no, triggered. I'm triggered. And he ends up having a beef with Candice Owens, which Candice Owens obviously won because Candice Owens was more clear-headed and he was way more emotional. So I'm highly disappointed with Ben Shapiro. I now see why people are incapable of thinking straight when their own emotions and their own people are involved in certain situations that are unfavorable to their group. So basically, when an attack hits you directly to the chest and is more close to home, you're more likely to be incapable of thinking rationally, especially when you talk about facts don't care about your feelings. So that's my thought about this situation, and I will see you guys later.